Hi everybody, and welcome back to Lost Genre Reddit Stories. This post is from the subreddit Relationships, and it's by user Conflicted Girlfriend. My 22 female parents, 50s male and female, refused to meet with my boyfriend, 23 male of 4 years. Tomorrow we are invited to a family dinner my parents will attend, and they forbade us from going. Should we still attend? My boyfriend and I have been together for 4 years. I hid my relationships from my parents for 2 years because I knew they would not approve of him as he is of a different religion. It was my mistake, I understand, not standing up to my parents, but as an 18-year-old living in their house, I felt I had no choice. Anyway, 2 years into the relationship, they found out about us and basically told me to break up with him or I would be cut off. By then, I knew it was coming and already had money saved up, so I moved out within 2 months. At first, they cut all contact with me, but eventually came around and our relationship seemed okay. I would not talk about my significant other and they wouldn't ask, but I was no longer hiding my relationship. My extended family met him and they all love him, and this is where the issue is now. My grandmother is visiting from our home country for the second time and I want her to meet my significant other. My aunt is hosting a family dinner and she happily invited my significant other. The problem is that my parents are also invited. To this day, they have only met him briefly once when he went to their house to talk to them about our relationship. He wanted to do things right and prove to them he loved me, but they kicked him out and didn't listen. I told my mom he would be at the family dinner, and that's when things went bad. They said they did not want him there, that they were not okay with that, and my father went on to call me names, shaming me for sleeping with my significant other. My dad threatened he would cause a scene, even if it was in front of his mother. Now, I would understand if this dinner were to be held at their house. It's their home and I would respect their wishes, but it is not the case. My aunt invited us over and she is the one in charge of the guest list. I basically told my parents that if it was such a big deal, then they should not attend the dinner. My dad kept saying that this was such a happy day for him that he would not want to tarnish my grandmother's visit with a bad memory. I understand it is his mother who he hasn't seen in a couple of months, but she is also very important to me. Now, here are my questions. Am I being insensitive? Should I just wait until another occasion to introduce my significant other? My significant other said he does not want to make me unhappy, but he feels it is not fair to him to keep hiding and giving in to my parents' demands. I understand. I have chosen my significant other over my parents. He is a great person with a wonderful heart who has supported me through all this drama with my parents. I am an adult who no longer has to abide by their rules. I am conflicted. Please help Reddit. Well, OP, in short, I'd say screw whatever your parents want and just go. That is what you want. Your parents are behaving like little children throwing a tantrum because you're doing something that they don't want. But you know what, OP? Fine. If they want to hate your boyfriend for whatever stupid and idiotic reasons they have, basically ideology, well then that's on them. That hurt their relationship with you. That's on them too. And at the end of the day, it's not even their house. They get to have no demands on this. Your aunt invited you and your boyfriend together. That's it. If I was in your shoes, I would just give my aunt a heads up that I am going with my boyfriend and that my dad threatened to be a child and throw a tantrum in front of everybody because he didn't like him, and that you just wanted to let her know in case she decides that maybe you guys don't go in order to avoid any drama. But I don't get the impression that she would do that. And then just tell your parents, hey, I'm going whether you guys like it or not, and so is my boyfriend, so suck it up and ignore us, or just don't go. And what do you guys think? What would you do if you were in OP's shoes? Let me know in the comments section, and now let's move on to the community comments to see what they said. Styx Ferryman says, you are right to support your significant other. Screw your parents. Do inform your aunt in advance that your parents are still trying to pretend your significant other doesn't exist and may cause drama. Also, I would tell your parents that they are not to communicate with you until they are willing to apologize to your significant other and treat him properly. You are currently implicitly letting them get away with their behavior by remaining talking whilst they pretend your significant other doesn't exist. And OP responds, she is informed of what my parents are saying and said it was our decision, but we are still invited. All the Vultures says, your aunt happily invited you and your significant other. Your parents do not have the right to dictate whether you and your significant other attend any function that they themselves are not hosting. Period. The end. If they do not approve of the company invited to the dinner party, they are not required to attend said dinner party. This is not an option. This is not a preference. This is simple etiquette. Miss Manners would have a heart attack reading this. Your parents are abusive jerks and you owe them nothing. Go to the dinner with your significant other with your heads held high. Let your parents make a-holes of themselves in front of your whole family. They are the ones in the wrong here, not you. You are not being insensitive. They are. Ubiquitous Lady 21 says, speaking from my own experience here, but your parents might just be making empty threats in a last attempt to get between you and your significant other. My parents did the same thing to my sister, telling her that she is an embarrassment for choosing to be with a guy from a different cultural background and yada yada. But my siblings and I all supported her, and my dad, who is not one to hide his anger in public, made similar threats about causing a scene or forcibly kicking her and her significant other out if they came around. But when she finally brought her significant other to one of our family gatherings, in spite of my dad's threats, he ended up feeling too embarrassed to make a scene, which honestly surprised me. He was still rude to the guy and ended up leaving early, but the funniest part was when he finally decided to tell my grandmother about how horrible my sister was and what a shameful thing she was doing. My brother was like, it's okay to let her do what makes her happy. So I would say, go ahead and bring him. You can't tiptoe around them forever. Fiber Walk With Me says, I would still go. Maybe even have a sit down with your parents informing them again that you are going and it means a lot to you that he meet more of your family. Maybe you can set a schedule if they are going to be that irrational so as not to cause a scene. If the party is from 1 p.m. to 5 p.m., maybe you go from 1 p.m. to 3 p.m. and your parents from 3 p.m. until the party ends. I would also talk to your aunt, the hostess, and let her know what is going on so she can be prepared for it. Hopefully everyone else in the family is smart enough not to take your parents seriously if they throw a fit and act childish. And Opie responds, thank you for your response. I don't want to upset my grandmother in case there is a scene, so this may work. I already asked if we could speak to them privately before the dinner, but they refused. My aunt is informed of what's going on, and she said she would support my significant other and I. Okay, well, all in all, I think the community gave OP some pretty decent advice, and, she gave us a little bit more context. No more information was in the comment section, so now let's move on straight to the update to see how this story ends. Thank you to everyone who commented on my OP. I appreciate your responses. So, as I said in some of my responses, my aunt was aware of everything my parents said to me and their threat, and she said that we were still invited. As per some of your suggestions, it was her party and I didn't feel comfortable asking her to ban my parents. She said she invited us all and everyone was welcome and she was aware of the situation. So, my boyfriend and I decided to attend the dinner. It was 2 days ago, and my parents did not show up, so it was drama-free. Here's how it went down. Early Saturday morning, I received a call from my mom, and we had a normal conversation about my day. But then she asked what my plans were for that evening. I told her I was going to my aunt's, and she once again told me she did not want to see my significant other at the dinner. To that, I responded that she could either ignore us at the dinner, which I wouldn't care if she did, or she could just not attend. My mom then basically went off on me and said we would no longer be in contact if I did not live my life the way I was raised. Although I realized this was a possibility, it hurt me more than I thought it would. We ended the call with I love yous and we haven't talked since. In the evening, we headed over to my aunt's and a lot of my family was present. Those who hadn't met my significant other were so welcoming and kind to him that I was overcome with emotion. My grandmother pulled me aside and told me my parents will eventually come around and that I should do what makes me happy. We had a long conversation that made me feel so much better about the whole situation. I love her so much. I spent the rest of the weekend with my boyfriend's family, who is simply amazing. In the 4 years I have known them, they have welcomed me into their family and I absolutely love them. I am very upset by my parents' decision because in the end, they are my parents and I love them. Up until 4 years ago, I considered my mom to be my best friend. So yes, it does hurt that she chose her prejudices over her daughter. Thankfully, I have my boyfriend and his family, as well as my extended family to help me during this tough time. I don't regret my decision. I know I am not doing anything wrong. I have a loving and supporting boyfriend and he is worth it. He was so happy to meet my family that he hasn't stopped bragging about how much they loved him. He has been over the moon with happiness because my family loved him and he's more excited that they all thought he was funny. My family is supportive of my relationship and I know someday my parents will realize the mistake they have made. Maybe this will happen once we get married. They are missing out on my happiness and one day I may be able to forgive them. As some of you pointed out, it's important that they apologize to me and I wait for that day, but for now, I am very happy with my decision. Well, it'll be good for you for properly standing up to your parents for your significant other. And you are right, and your extended family loves them, so I guess that's all you need. Hopefully someday your idiotic parents will stop being idiots and come around. But until that day, I would say no contact remains. Anyways, all the best for you and your significant other in the future, OP. Thank you for sharing, and take care. Now, let's move on to the next post. This post is from the subreddit Malicious Compliance, and it's by user Rabid Raytheon. Don't leave the clearance section until you've finished tidying up. A tale from my retail job which I recently quit, yay, while I procrastinate on my other work. This one's from about 15 years ago at my original store. I worked in the ladies' wear section doing recovery, basically tidying up and sometimes printing price tickets for the shelves if there were any missing or torn, and thought it was generally possible to get it finished within the time allotted for my shift. Busy days or events such as Mother's Day or pre-Christmas and Boxing Day sales turned into a nightmare. As if the usual holiday shopping mess wasn't bad enough, the department manager, Stacy, had, in all her infinite wisdom, decided to put all of the ladies' wear clearance into the section at once. They actually did it for all the clothes departments, but most of them only had a small amount, so you could easily fit it all on the normal clearance racks. However, ladies' wear had ended up with 10 times as much clearance as usual for this time of the year because whoever decides what clothes will sell made crap choices and we ended up with mountains of horrid outfits marked down to $1, even though most people wouldn't wear it if you paid them $50. Usually, they would keep most of the excess stock out the back and just have a few racks of it in the section, and as the stuff in the section sold and the racks got empty, they'd be replenished from more stock out from the back. But for some reason, Stacy decided she wanted all the ladies' wear clearance to be available to customers at once, even though it didn't physically fit on the racks. Not one to be deterred by stupid little things like logic and reason, she moved the regular stock from the main middle aisle of the section into other aisles, causing those to be overfull, and ordered the field staff to put the clearance all along the middle aisle. When I say the clothes were literally bulging off the shelf arms, I'm not exaggerating. You could barely even walk down the aisle without the first 4 to 5 things on each arm falling off, and of course if a customer wanted to look at anything further back on the shelf, they'd knock most of the other stuff off in the process. So there was constantly a several inch thick layer of clothes lying on the floor. This made it literally impossible to actually recover the clearance section properly, but generally recover staff were told to prioritize doing a pickup every hour or so and make sure there was no stock on the floor and spend the rest of the time going through and recovering the section, making sure everything was in the right place and in the correct size order. So, I had a shift on Boxing Day and I heard from the pre-shift huddle that one of the big regional managers was coming to visit and inspect the store at closing time and that we needed to make sure the store was perfect. Not sure how that was meant to happen on Boxing Day and with half the number of staff we needed, but whatever. When I started my shift, 90% of the clearance clothing was on the floor. For most of the aisle, you couldn't even see the floor. I knew that there was no way I'd be able to keep the floor clean in the clearance section because my shift ended at the same time the store closed. It asked anything I tidied up would immediately be destroyed by customers. So I decided I would focus on getting the rest of the section presentable and then quickly try to pick up the clearance section in the last 10 to 15 minutes of the shift before the store shut. At the start of my shift, I did a half-hour's pickup in the clearance and tried to shove most of the mess aside a bit so that at least it wasn't right in the middle of the aisle, and then went to start the rest of the section, only to be confronted by Stacy.
"What are you doing? Have you seen clearance? Why aren't you fixing it? It's all over the floor,"
she said, and I responded, "Yeah, because you put too much stock in there. I picked it up, but it falls off again because the shelves are too full and customers just knock it down as soon as I fix it anyway." Then she says,
"Well, are you planning to do anything about it?"
To which I say, "Right now, I can't do anything about it. There are so many customers in the aisle, I can hardly get in there anyway, and since I can't keep clearance tidy with customers in the store, I figured I'd get the rest of the ladies' wear tidied and then pick up clearance at the end." She tells me that it's not good enough, that I need to make sure clearance is off the floor and sorted properly, that I know Bob, the regional manager, is due for a visit this evening. I tell her that I understand that, but like I said, it's literally impossible to recover clearance because of how much stock is in there and how many customers there are. If I can at least do the rest of the area first, then it will be only clearance that looks a bit rough and I can at least make sure everything is off the floor by the end of the shift.
And she says, "You don't get to decide what you prioritize. You need to make sure clearance is perfect. I know no one likes clearance, but you need to stop making excuses to get out of doing it. So don't leave the clearance section until you finish tidying it."
Okay. 5 minutes before my shift ends and the store closes, the regional manager Bob shows up and is escorted around the store by the manager, Mark, and Stacy. They stop in front of the ladies' wear and Stacy just breathes,
"What the F?"
You see, I had finished tidying clearance, though the shelves were still over full. None of the stock was on the floor in that aisle and everything was in the right size order and hanging neatly. The clearance section was my magnum opus of recovery, if I do say so myself. However, the rest of the ladies' wear department had not been touched, since I couldn't finish tidying clearance until the store was pretty much closed, and I wasn't allowed to leave clearance until I did finish it. This meant that the rest of lady wears looked like a bomb had hit it, and stock was all over the floor, clothes draped over the shelves instead of hung up properly, broken coat hangers everywhere, and abandoned shopping baskets and piles of stock from other departments left lying around in the aisles. Bob and Stacy looked like they were ready to murder me, but Mark, who I knew was a generally good worker, asked why ladies' wear was in such poor condition given that I was meant to have been recovering it for 3 hours. I explained, Stacy told me I wasn't allowed to leave the clearance section until I'd finished tidying it, but there's so much overstock and so many customers pulling things apart that most of the stock won't stay on the shelves. In one of those moments of perfect cosmic timing, right as I said that, one of the shelf arms behind me gave way with a loud crash, sending an entire rack of clothes to the floor. Mark just stared at me silently for a few seconds and then said to me, "Well, you have done well under the circumstances. You can go home." I'm not sure if Stacy got into any trouble, but nothing else was said about it to me by the store manager, and I never got any warnings or disciplinary action or anything. The following shift, more rails have been brought out from the back and placed in the central aisle of the store, and some of the clearance had been moved to those rails to free up space in ladies' wear. Stacy refused to talk to me for about a fortnight though. Haha. Well, OP, you did exactly what you were told to do and won 2 weeks with no Stacy talking to you, so good for you. Thanks for sharing, OP. And it's that time that we've reached the end of the video. I hope you enjoyed today's stories. I really did enjoy reading them to you. So if you did, then don't be shy and go ahead and give the video a like. And don't forget to subscribe or even share this video with people that you might think will enjoy my storytelling. Also, if you have the time, go down to the video description and check out all the links I have for you, from our Discord community to my channel merch. And finally, I'd like to say thank you for watching. It really means a lot to me that you enjoy my videos. And having said all that, I'll see you guys in the next video.